Could we create counter propaganda on TikTok?
Moving my ass in these platforms.
And TV is a popular folk art.
I can understand, I'm sympathetic to the impulse to hold on to a neoliberal order in the face of its crackdown. Because as inequitable and wrought with violence as that neoliberal order was, what it didn't seem to threaten to do is bring all the world powers into direct conflict. It was always the violence was on the periphery, and there was cooperation between the major imperial powers to some degree, and it established a relative peace of a kind, especially after the Cold War, but even before. So the cracking up of the neoliberal order puts big imperial powers into competition with each other more directly, again, for resources, production, militarily, all of it. So that's a frightening prospect, which it goes back to why Trump seems saintly in comparison to what's going on now, but I'm not going to reiterate that too strongly. So I can see the Democratic Party memberships, like the rank and file Democrats, desire to hold on to neoliberalism, and reluctant. So that might account for some of the dragging of their feet as this happens, because it's the crack up is happening.
Can I jump in here without
mm-hmm.
Disrupting your thought? I don't want to do
that. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, there's a lot of reasons why we miss the neoliberal order. Mm-hmm. There was, broadly speaking, peace in the neoliberal epoch. I mean, there were real problems in the Middle East, for certain. But if we really think about what neoliberalism was, it was a organization of capitalism that was built by the left as we know it in an important way, right? It was a post-racial form of capitalism. It was a post-patriarchal form of capitalism. It substantially cashed out the project of the last meaningful gasp of the left before whatever the millennials were.
I don't know about that, because I feel like the neoliberal order really emerged from Friedman and Reagan.
Yeah, but those people were anti-racist and anti-patriarchal. I mean, that's the thing.
Well, Reagan might not have been in rhetoric, but
politically he was.
Politically,
right?
He was.
Politically, he was, because even the worst of it, which is the war on organized labor. The plain fact of the matter is that organized labor under capitalist political leadership, as it had come down from the middle of the 20th century, was in very large measure in the United States a labor brokerage project for white men. Right. It was not, the idea that the proletarianizing aspirations of a generation of women, right? Mm-hmm. So millions of people, millions and millions, tens of millions of workers entered the American workforce just through the emancipation of women into, a whole bunch of new sectors of the division of labor. Mm-hmm. And of course, this, many sectors of the division of labor, other than just the most miserable and degraded, are being opened up to racial minorities. And that process couldn't be managed by the organized labor that existed. It just couldn't. It could. I'm not saying that labor's incapable of those things, or that labor is antagonistic to the emancipation of women or racial emancipation. But in the 1970s, it didn't happen.
I thought it kind of did. I mean, I don't know, but maybe I'm just looking at the advertisements. I just remember, in the 70s, you'd watch TV and there'd be advertisements for the various trade unions, and it was always it was like a Benetton sweater ad. It was always a multi-ethnic group of workers, always marching together in
Oh yeah,
song.
I mean, obviously, the labor militancy of the 1970s is extremely interesting, where you have workers coming back from Vietnam. They've had close comrades in arms from all over the world, so they're from all over America, and they're coming back, with very different sensibilities. As a result of that experience, you have the long-haired workers. You have strikes like at Youngtown, for less monotonous work, et cetera. It's not just about wages and hours.
Mhm.
And of course you have young leftists who are entering the trade unions in large numbers in the 1970s as organizers. And none of that is to be, I mean, obviously people should understand that history, because they're trying to replay it now in terms of this DSA rank and file strategy. And they're only dimly aware that it has been undertaken before, and they're not aware at all at just how serious it was,
Mhm.
by comparison to today.